Hello, I'm Mario Tonguzi, co-editor-in-chief of Retail Insider. Joining me today is Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who is Senior Director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. Thanks, Sylvain, for joining us again today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Okay, let's talk Stats Canada and Consumer Price Index, which they put out on Monday.
Yep.
Uh, Tell me a little bit about what you saw and what the data said about food prices and in grocery stores in Canada these days.
Well, food inflation actually slowed down in February, which is what we were expecting. I mean, last year was the GST holiday for half the month of February, so we were expecting a surge throughout 3 months. Now things are cooling off. The challenge, of course, is that we have the meat counter really creating some issues for a lot of consumers. All three components of the meat trifecta are more expensive. Beef, pork is up 9%, chicken is up 9.2%. So lots of protein orphans out there looking for that protein fix. That's probably going to continue for a while. And also, vegetables are much more expensive than last year. Coffee as well, year to year. Bananas are up 8%, which is really rare. Typically, bananas are as steady as she goes sort of product. That's up as well. No, we were expecting a slowdown, but unfortunately, because of what's happening in Iran, I think that the slowdown will be short-lived because energy costs will pick up the pace and will actually push food inflation higher, likely in April.
Yeah, let's talk some numbers here. So the what was the number for food inflation in Canada?
So food inflation was 5.4% from 7.3%. That's a significant drop, but there's still a 3.8% differential between general inflation and food inflation. So when people actually spend money out there, they're feeling okay, but they feel squeezed at the grocery store because wages are going up about 4% year to year, but that's still below food inflation. So a lot of people, when they go out of the grocery store, they'll probably be shocked, sticker shock with some product, especially at the meat counter. But also, they probably feel that they're running behind. They're not keeping up with what's going on with prices at the grocery store. Their buying power has actually been impacted. In fact, since COVID in 2020, I would say that the average households has fallen behind compared to food inflation at the grocery store.
And where are we at internationally with prices?
Yeah, it's a good question because I tend to like comparing Canada with other nations around the world because we all deal with geopolitical risks, similar geopolitical risks. We did that with Ukraine 4 years ago, now with Iran, and Canada has been on top of the list of the G7 countries for 3 months in a row now. It's still at 5.4%. Now, if you actually take out the effects of the GST holiday, that amount, that percentage would actually go down to 4%, which would still make Canada the number one country among G7 countries. So the US in the South, they're at 3.1%, despite all the tariffs for products going into the country. So you do wonder what is going on in Canada, and we're not necessarily performing all that well.
So I guess the question is for everybody is why? Like why Canada has higher prices?
I just think that really our food supply chain is not able to absorb systemic shocks the way that we would see in the U.S., for example, or other places around the world. We have many companies with little or no options. They single source a lot of their products, a lot of their ingredients, and they have to pass on extra costs over to their customers, and eventually that hits the consumer. There's lots of barriers. Like interprovincial trade barriers that are impacting the ability for goods to flow across the country. And I would include supply management in there. the industrial carbon tax is also a reality that we have to deal with as a country versus the US, which is actually affecting our food industry's competitiveness. That's actually increasing on April 1st at $110 a metric ton. So that's going to be a challenge for the food sector.
So, you mentioned obviously the situation in Iran right now. How soon do you think that's going to hit the pocketbook of Canadians when it comes to food prices? And are any particular segments of the food category going to be more impacted than others?
Yeah, so typically it takes 3 months. There's a lag of 3 months when you see a surge like that. It happened in 2022 with Ukraine, in 2008 with the financial crisis, but I don't think it's going to take that long. I think it's just a matter of weeks. So if oil stays at around $100 a barrel by the end of March, we could start seeing prices increase mid-April, end of April. And categories that are more vulnerable are categories relying on a cold chain: meat products, dairy products, produce. Those are the products that are likely to be impacted more. Like all of the grocery store will be impacted, but those are the categories that are going to be impacted more.
Okay, last thing I want to talk to you about, Sylvain, is just recently, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency announced that it had slapped a bunch of companies with some fines, thousands of dollars of fines for mislabeling or inaccurate information when it comes to made in Canada products.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? Like, and what's happening there?
Well, I think the CFI is doing its job. I mean, my understanding is that there's been many complaints filed, and it's always hard to prove, to gather evidence that there was some wrongdoing. There are, I mean, mistakes being made, but after a year of the Buy Canadian movement, if you will, you tend to be less tolerant to errors, and so I do think that the CFI is doing its job in sending the right signal. And grocers really don't have much of an excuse. And I've personally have seen some cases where you can tell that there was some, well, maple washing. That's the term that we often use. There was some maple washing going on, and frankly, that's just not acceptable. People aren't necessarily willing to accept that at all.
Do you think Canadians are still in the Buy Canada mood?
Uh, I think they've always been in a mood to buy Canadian. It's just whether or not they can afford it. I mean, some options are affordable, but not all the time. I do think that many Canadians have actually remained zeroed in on specific products coming from all over the world, with the exception of America. But I think the anger is actually diminished a little bit, which really drove the Buy Canadian movement. I think that people are starting to realize that the Trump presidency is very much annoying to basically the rest of the world, like the entire world, not just towards Canada. So I suspect that fewer Canadians are taking this very personal.
Okay, thanks so much, Sylvain, for joining us again today.
My pleasure.
Okay, that was Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, who is Senior Director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Retail Insider. Thanks for joining us today.